Hey guys, Telegram Sam here, and today I'm finally going to be doing the genre tags that have been going around the VC lately. There's been the folk tag, the country tag, the jazz tag, psych tag. There's pretty much been every genre of a vinyl tag going around. But our lovely VC member Lovell Andrew, I'll link his channel down below, finally made us a soul tag. I'm so excited. Soul is definitely one of my favorite genres, and it's definitely a genre I have enough to do on these tags with. So let's get into it. There's 15 questions. So the first question is, first soul album you ever bought. This is the first album I ever bought in general. I bought this when I was about 11 or 12. This is Ray Charles doing his thing. This isn't Ray Charles' greatest record, but it's Ray Charles, so how can you beat that? This came out in the late 60s, I believe, 69. But yeah, it's kind of like this weird mix of, soul, R&B. There's even kind of like a little bit of a country twang to it. But yeah, not my favorite of his, but it's Ray Charles, so who can do wrong by that? Show a Motown album, and I gotta go with one of Motown's greatest artists, Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye, What's Going On? This is just a seminal album, not only in Motown standards, but just soul standards in general. It's got this great gatefold, and it was produced by Marvin Gaye. Yeah, this is a soul album if there ever was a soul album. Show a recent soul album you bought. I showed this in my last video, and I've been spinning it pretty much non-stop since then. But this is Isaac Hayes' Hot Buttered Soul. I mean, it has soul in the name, and it's definitely a great mix of soul, early funk. It has these great instrumental pieces. I feel like Isaac Hayes really doesn't do a lot of singing on this album, but the instrumental pieces are just so beautiful and so well arranged, and he even produced this record himself. A genius. Show a soul 45 or 12 inch. This is one of the only 12 inches I have. I'm actually planning on getting rid of it soon. It has a pretty gnarly warp in it, and it's just not my favorite thing in the world. But this is Aretha Franklin doing Jumpin' Jack Flash with Keith Richards. Yeah, it literally just has 5 different versions of the same song. It's not Aretha Franklin's greatest thing. I literally just saw this at the thrift store and just wanted it because it's Aretha Franklin and Keith Richards, and Aretha Franklin's looking kind of punk there on the album cover. But yeah, I guess they did this for that movie that Whoopi Goldberg was in called Jumpin' Jack Flash. So yeah, plan on getting rid of this soon. I'm probably going to go back to the thrift store where someone can hopefully have it and it can find a better home. The next question is, show a live soul album. This is one of my favorite albums in my collection. Again, another Aretha Franklin. This is Amazing Grace by Aretha Franklin with James Cleveland and the Southern California Community Choir. This is an experience. I mean, this is kind of Aretha Franklin going back to her gospel roots. Her father was a very famous reverend in the South, and that's how she learned how to sing, was singing in his choir. And this is her going back to her gospel roots, and just like every time I listen to this, it gives me shivers down my spine, and like some parts like make me cry. It's like one of those very few albums that gets like an emotional reaction out of me. But it has some great standards, like Amazing Grace. She does a killer version of that song. Precious Memories, that song is so beautiful. She also does a cover of a Marvin Gaye song, Holy Holy, from the album What's Going On, and it's just so beautiful and so original. It's mind-blowing. There's also, a couple years ago, they found the footage they took of the recording of this album, and I watched that movie first before I bought this album. It's just I'm not a religious person, but I was like standing up in my apartment, like dancing and like just doing the whole hallelujahs and everything. And this is just, I cannot recommend this enough. It's beautiful. Some of the greatest singing Aretha Franklin has ever done is on that album. Yeah. Who's your all-time favorite male soul singer? And I had to go with Otis, my man. Otis Redding just has such a unique voice and soul. It's can be very buttery and silky, but also very raspy and powerful at the same time. He's just a great mix of so many things. I mean, this album is literally called the Soul Album. So, yeah, I mean, anything Otis Redding sings is amazing. And yeah, he was one of the first people that really got me into soul. I remember I was watching the movie 16 Candles when I was a teenager, or not 16 Candles, it's Pretty in Pink, where John Cryer does that dance to one of Otis Redding's songs in that record store Molly Ringwald is working at. I just fell in love with that scene and that song, and it really got me into soul music and into Otis Redding's music. So, what's your all-time favorite female singer? Had to go with my girl, Nina Simone. She just is one of the greatest singers, piano players, performers of all time, and she's one of my all-time favorite artists. She not only talked the talk, but she walked the walk, and she fought for what she believed in, and the civil rights movement. She was a big part of that movement, and she is such an amazing singer. You can really tell how her early schooling in classical piano and jazz music really influenced her singing style, and she almost uses her voice as an instrument. It is an instrument, and she just really was one of the just geniuses of knowing how to use it and knowing how to sort of scat with it too as well. I mean, any record of hers is just astounding. Next we got Show a Funk record, and I had to throw this in here. There are so many choices, but Betty Davis, her self-titled debut, has just worked its way up into one of my top 10 all-time favorite albums. It's not just a funk record. It's like a funk, hard rock, nasty. Like, it makes you do like a nasty face when you listen to it. It's just so raw. It's like how Raw Power is seen as like sort of the catalyst for the intense hardcore sound of punk. I feel like this is the catalyst of what funk music is. This came out in the early 70s, I believe. Yeah, 1973. Before, like, when funk was really starting to come around and sort of form its thing. Like, she really did the raw version of it, and it definitely shows on this album. It's so amazing. And also her album that came out, They Say I'm Different. That one's really good as well, but I just prefer that one because it sounds just more raw and funkier. Show a Blaxploitation soundtrack. I don't know if this is considered a Blaxploitation soundtrack, but it definitely was the filmmaker's sort of love note to Blaxploitation movies from the 70s. This is a 90s movie. I showed this in my last video as well. This is the original soundtrack to Jackie Brown. This came out in 1997. This is a killer record with a killer compilation of soul, R&B, funk, disco music. You have Bobby Womack, Brothers Johnson, Bill Withers, the Delphonics, Minnie Riperton, the Grassroots, Pam Grier. She did a song in Foxy Brown. That song's on here. I mean, this is just a killer compilation of just great songs from the 70s during that time. So, and then show your favorite soul album ever. Again, I'm just gonna have to go back to Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. Like, this is just such a beautiful, seminal album, not only for the soul genre, but it's almost like a time capsule to the late 60s, because this is kind of like the title track, What's Going On, is essentially him just being on like what's going on with this Vietnam War and the civil rights movement. How come nothing is really being done about those issues? And of course the arrangements on them are beautiful, the songs are beautiful, his singing is just top notch, and he produced this himself. It's just insane. It's perfect from top to bottom. I even think when Rolling Stone redid their top 500 albums of all time, I think they chose this as their number one. So, I mean, this is just great. Everyone needs to have this in their record collection. I don't care if you only listen to polka music. If you don't have this in your collection, you don't really have a real record collection. Show a classic soul album from the 60s. This is kind of a mix of like an early funk 60s album, but this is from 69. This is Stand by Sly and the Family Stone. I mean, this is essentially a greatest hits album for them. It has obviously the song Stand, but there's also this great song, Don't Call Me the N-Word, Whitey. That is such a like sort of F-you to white people who think it's okay to say the N-word. It's amazing. Everyday People, Sex Machine, You Can Make It If You Try. I mean, this is just perfect. And then Show a Classic Soul album from the 70s. I don't know if this is really a classic, but I just really love this album. This is What You See Is What You Get by the Dramatics. I mean, look how cool that cover is. The Sun's an Eye. It's so cool. But this is a great mix of soul, sort of early funk, early disco music. I mean, that awesome song, What You See Is What You Get, is on here. I mean, they have a song called Give Me Some Good Soul Music. It's very, contemporary. Thank You for Your Love, Hot Pants in the Summertime. I mean, this is just killer. And then Show a Classic Soul album from the 80s. I mean, I had to go with my girl, Tina Turner, for this one. I mean, Legs for Days. I love Tina Turner. She's one of my all-time favorite singers, performers. She just kills it on this album. And especially, she was 40 when this came out. And it's like, by the time you're 40 in the music business, it's like you're considered dead. So for her to have a huge comeback record in the 40s and still stand with people younger than her at the time, like Madonna and Cyndi Lauper, and really like own it. I mean, she does What's Love Got to Do with It, her cover of Ann Peebles' I Can't Stand the Rain, a cover of Al Green's Let's Stay Together, Private Dancer. I mean, this record's so good. I'm sorry if you can hear screaming. There's a skate park across the street from my apartment. Someone probably landed an ollie or something. There's probably kids losing their minds outside, so I'm sorry if you hear that. Show your favorite soul duet album. This was the only one. I don't really have anything that falls into that category, but this is kind of like a group. So this is Lovell's Chameleon. This is a promo version. So it has Patti LaBelle, Sarah Dash, and Nona Hendrix. I mean, both Sarah Dash and Nona Hendrix sort of kind of got their start with Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells, but then in the 80s they kind of, made their own careers and had very successful careers on their own. Sarah Dash did her own solo stuff and sang with the Rolling Stones. Same thing with Nona Hendrix. I have a couple of Nona Hendrix solo albums, and she is a great singer. I feel like she just does not get talked about enough. But yeah, I love this album. This is a good mix of soul, R&B, disco, and world music. It's really beautiful. I really loved it. And then lastly, show your favorite soul song. So I'm going to have to go back to that Otis Redding album. The song Cigarettes and Coffee on this album, that is definitely one of my all-time favorite songs, one of my all-time favorite soul songs. It literally just talks about that moment at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're just sitting at the table with whoever you love and just smoking a cigarette and drinking coffee. And just, I just think that's so simplistic yet beautiful. And obviously, Otis Redding singing on that song is amazing, and the instrument arrangement is amazing. It has this great like horn section about it, and this great sort of slow guitar, and it's just so beautiful. And like at the end where he's kind of just singing over and over again, like one more cigarette, one more cup of coffee, because you know you just want that simple little moment to sort of last forever. And he just really sort of paints you that picture in that song. It's just so beautiful, and I love it. But yeah, that was the last question. Thank you so much to Lovell for creating this awesome tag, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.